Chapter 8. Boiling Point. You yank away from Elizabeth and feel your heart thudding madly in your chest. What did you just say? What does that mean? At the look on your face, she suddenly goes silent, her expression sobering up but once. I don't know what you're talking about, Cameron. It's very late and... Oh, hell no, do not give me that crap. You make an abrupt about face and rushing down the stairs and making for the living room, hearing Elizabeth stumble as she tries to keep up. You barge into the heart of the party, striding straight towards your father. As usual, he's right in the middle of a tale that actually makes him sound like a complete jerk.
And that sucker sold it to me for about half that. Can you believe it?
For a moment, the crowd around him laughs appreciatively, and then you cut straight through them, grim misery on your face, and a hush falls over the room. We need to talk now.
Cameron, what do you think you're doing?
Trust me, the time for ignoring me is over. I'm not going to be pushed aside any longer, not this time.
What has gotten into you?
You really thought you could dismiss me my whole life and not face the consequences?
If the so-called consequence is more than a teenage tantrum, I think I can handle it.
The anger flares up in you like a white-hot flame, and before you realize what you're doing, you've lunged forward and grabbed your father by the wrist.
Cameron!
Let's go. Without waiting for an answer, you haul him to the ground, Elizabeth rushing up behind you, panting. Theo, don't listen to her. Theo, she's absolutely demented. I know. You drag him into a study, Elizabeth hot on your heels, and slam the door shut behind the three of you. I don't know where she comes up with such things, but she's lying, or crazy, or... They planned my mother's death. Her and Dante. It wasn't an accident, Dad. They meant for all of it to happen. Your father stares at you unblinkingly. Elizabeth's tremulous breathing is the only other sound in the room. I saw the crime scene reports, a boy wearing a sweater with Dante's stupid prep school's insignias explicitly mentioned. He was there, Dad. He was at the crime scene. It was murder. At this, your father finally moves, his hand shoots out and grabs your jaw, a wave of fury pulsing in his eyes.
How dare you disrespect her memory like this? How dare you make such a revolting scene and use her name to turn me against my wife and child?
You wrench your face from his grip and he stumbles back, still weakened. I'm your child too, or have you forgotten that? I'm told you once loved me and my mother more than anything in this world, more than anyone thought you were capable of loving. So I don't understand. If that's true, how can it be that you stand here today, looking me in the eye and unwilling to claim either of us? For a moment, your father just stands there, breathing so heavily he swells like a bullfrog. The tension in the room swells with him, but at last he opens his mouth, pointed at you.
Now listen to me carefully, because I'm only going to say this once. The next stunt you pull like this will land you on the other side of that front door. Permanently. Do not embarrass me again.
With a final furious glare, he turns to stride from the room. Oh no, he's not leaving without answering for this. You never loved her. Your father pauses with his hand on the door. You see his knuckles whiten with how tightly he's grabbing the handle.
You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
How do you think she'd feel if she could see us like this? Do you think she'd feel loved? For a moment he turns to you, his eyes glistening. But in another beat he marches out of the office and slams the door behind him. Your eyes blur with tears. You fall to your knees as denial of this, of you. It's broken, something inside of you. Elizabeth steps towards you and you look up into her dark, haunted eyes. I did what I had to do. And if you knew what was best for you, you'd forget I ever said anything. As if you could forget. As if you'd ever do her that favor, but you can't bring yourself to respond to the ludicrous comment. She walks out, closing the door quietly behind her, a sharp contrast to your father's aggressive slam. This time, when the tears begin to fall, you make no attempt to stop them. You don't know how long it's been when George and Trey walk into the study looking at you, at the sight of you weeping on the ground. They rush towards you, holding you from either side. There you are. What happened?
We've been looking all over for you.
You can't manage to answer. Your mind is suddenly clouded with memories. Your mother's smile, the way she held you, the way her body looked when they pulled it from the wreck.
You're okay, Cameron. Just breathe. Breathe.
You inhale deeply, let it out on a shaky exhale before responding. My mother. Slowly, word by painstaking word, you fill them in on what you've learned and all that's happened, and watching their expressions darken. Cameron, I'm so sorry. I know that's not enough, but words just aren't enough.
There's really nothing we can say, but maybe there's something we could do.
You look up at him curiously.
When I feel like hell, I like to do what my therapist calls expelling the energy and destruction. It basically means breaking a bunch of stuff.
Really, I'm the opposite. When I'm in pain, I tend to try to care for things instead. I find it brings me back.
We don't know what you need, Cameron, but we'll stay for as long as it takes for you to feel strong enough to come back.
You want nothing more than to draw on their comfort. Care for things with George.
Destroy things with Trey.
What in the actual hell is this? No, seriously, hold on. Okay, I've restarted the app. Hold on. Let us wait and watch. Okay, it was just broken there for a minute. I'm a person who struggles with both. I want to be honest with you, this choice is actually really hard. I try not to destroy. I really try not to. Because typically, I'm going to be honest with you, people only care about guys' mental health when basically we start letting this side of ourselves be known. The side that destroys things and gets angry and passionate and yells and punches things like, our fist against a wall in the tree and yada yada yada. So again, I try and get away from that. Just saying, as a guy, I don't know, let me know in the comment section below what you guys do. But you know what, I haven't destroyed things in a while, so we're going with Trey. You follow Trey down into the wine cellar, a vast, darkened space of stone, wood, hundreds of bottles of wine stacked over each other. The lighting is subtle and the air is cool against your aching head. It's peaceful down here. It gives you a roguish grin.
Well, it's not going to be for long.
Do you come down here often?
Of course not, just figured it would be a good place for you to get all your emotion out.
A place filled with fragile and expensive items?
Exactly.
Sounds eerily perfect.
I knew it. You seem like the type tempted to break stuff.
Only every time I look at one of my dad's stupid collections, especially the Fabergé eggs.
Well, bottles are a little more replaceable, so let's stick with this for now. Be my guest, Your Highness.
Yeah, but the wine isn't replaceable. You look around, eyes alight with possibility. So when you say breaking,
I mean no holding back, no worrying about making a mess, no thoughts, empty head.
The last part probably isn't too hard for you. He sticks his tongue out at you, something he hasn't done for years, and you laugh despite yourself. You're still laughing as he hands you one of your dad's finest bottles. This could probably buy a car.
Now break it.
How? Oh, you fling it, toss it, play that game where people keep trying to flip a bottle and, it lands on the bottom, or, just fling it as hard as you possibly can.
However you like, let it come naturally.
Throw it against the stone wall. You draw back your arm as far as it can go. Fling the bottle right at the wall with all of your might. It smashes on contact with a satisfying crash, spraying wine and glass everywhere, staining the wall a dark, bloody red.
Nice throw.
I hope that takes them ages to scrub out. You give a deep, satisfied sigh. I wish I could smash a wine bottle over my family's heads somehow. If you can even call it a family, it never feels like one to me. I'm always on the outside. I know what families are supposed to be. I've seen love in other people's. I've seen love between siblings, but none of it ever directed at me.
I can understand that better than most. That's the world you and I grew up in, isn't it? No room for nonsense like love or kindness or compassion. It's part of why I wanted to forge my own path. I knew that there had to be a life beyond money and betrayal.
And is there?
He gives you a sad but earnest smile. Of course, Cameron. That's also why I started therapy. I figured I needed it. My therapist told me that a long time ago, and as I wasn't directing my anger at anyone, there was nothing wrong with expelling it. Usually I'd suggest picking your own things to break, but I think it's alright if you skip that part just once. I give a hug and a kiss, why not? You meet your eyes, that chemistry that you two have never been able to quite shake sparks to life again, and this time you give in. You lean forward, press your lips to his, as easy as knowing the words to your favorite old song. He pulls you closer, deepening the kiss, and the sweet taste of him fills your tongue. Heat surges through you in a rush. You tangle your fingers in his hair, unwilling to let go. When you finally break apart for breath, you can still feel the warmth of him in every inch of you. Well, that was unexpectedly a pleasant surprise, but we should probably get back to the party. No, let me break more bottles. We should. You and Trey begin the walk up the cellar stairs, returning to the house, the light growing brighter with each step. Listen, if this was me and this was my family, you see that whole wooden thing of bottles, I would fling myself as hard as possible into that bitch and I would slam it. God, I would knock every bottle to the ground to break it all. Anyway,
Thanks, Trey. I needed that.
Yeah, I know.
You feel whole again, centered, calm. But now that your focus has returned, it seems increasingly fixated on a singular idea. Revenge. Listen, if you know my story at all, you know why I think that and why I say that. If you don't know my story, perhaps you should get to know me. Then do so at your own peril. The three of you meet up again in the kitchen, adrenaline and anger rushing through your veins. How dare my father dismiss me like that? How dare he desecrate my mother's memory by refusing to believe the truth? We're going to make him pay.
Don't get me wrong, I'm on board, but how?
Loud, appreciative male laughter rings out from the next room. Since he clearly cares more about saving face in front of his guests than anything else, today is the day Theodore Vittel gets to find out what it's like to be humiliated, the same way he's done to me for 100 times.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah, I'm in. Having them both commit so easily heartens you, at least until Trey points out the obvious wrinkle.
But we need a plan.
From the living room, you hear James begin to speak, and you peek inside. You could have just let the whole entire goddamn thing burn up with the phones, but no, we wanted to save it.
I'd like to raise a toast to the man in the honor, and above all, to his good health.
Oh, my dad and his toast. He could go on for hours if no one stopped him. An idea strikes you bold and dangerous. Guys, I think I have something. They both turn to you, eyes gleaming. Until the end of James' toast, we've got the run of the place. And if we can find anything or something to expose my dad for the horrid human being he is, we'll make sure there isn't a soul in this house that thinks well of him. No. Question. There's incriminating evidence waiting to be found. I bet his study is full of it. Nah, too obvious, too accessible. Money's on the desk in his bedroom, which I've never seen him work at it in my entire life.
Sound like we've got some snooping to do.
Snooping? Let's go! Uh-oh, we're in trouble. The three of you rush upstairs as quietly as possible, Trey and George trailing behind you to Theo and Elizabeth's luxurious suite. Let's split up. I'll search the desk, George the closet, Trey the bookshelf. Got it. What are we looking for exactly? Anything we can use to prove to them that my dad isn't just an iron-fisted narcissist. He's a soul-sucking monster.
Fair, harsh, but fair.
The three of you get to work at once. The desk is cluttered with files made of polished wood. You push some of the files aside and find your father's face staring smugly back at you from a recent magazine cover. He's actually saved this. It's nothing like he doesn't already know. I should read the article, crumple it. Why not read it? Vitelli King's Triumphant Homecoming. Guess he liked the title. You flip the magazine over and your eyes rove over the rest of the article. Undisputed titan of the industry, hearty and hale as ever, back to clean his son's mess. You snort before shifting the article aside. This drivel isn't what you're looking for. The abbot points out that people aren't in high, praise of Dante. You return to the desk, opening the lower drawers. In another few minutes, you found a worthier prize, a copy of his will. Last will and testament of Theodore Vital. There's a will, there's a secret. You flip it open hungrily. My God. What is it? I didn't expect this. Sabrina is set to inherit the most of the assets, which checks out, but after her is me, before Dante. You feel a swell of glee rising in your belly. I guess Daddy's boy isn't as well liked as it been led to believe. You rifle further through the papers and find a prenuptial agreement included in the documents. Let's see who's binding him and Elizabeth. You scan the contract and your eyes catch on a specific clause. In the event of dissolution, blah blah blah, agree to reimburse with interest any and all funds on cosmetic procedures, included but not limited to insurance provided, surgical fees, medical expenses, related costs. So, if he leaves her, she'd have to pay him back for all of her plastic surgery, with interest, including insurance coverage. That's horrible. We're not talking petty cash. With all the work Elizabeth had done, that must be hundreds of thousands. He doesn't want to keep her pretty for someone else. Once he's done with her, he doesn't care what she looks like. That's such a calculated cruelty. Wow, I can't believe she signed that. Elizabeth. I mean, I don't know how to feel about Elizabeth. The cold way she treats us like a piece of meat. The fact that she's in on your mother's death. But then also, he did treat her like crap. It's just, but they say two wrongs don't make a right. Just saying. Unless you're an anti-hero. Anyway, she deserves this. She made the call to marry him under these terms, as she's the one who let her greed and vanity prevail. But it's barbaric. He keeps funding her, knowing she'll have to pay him back tenfold. She's a murderer, and you're telling me we should sympathize because she'll have to pay back for her own nose job? George falls silent, turning away from your gaze. Maybe you're right. Maybe she does deserve it, but cruelty like this is never satisfying. What she deserves can't really change that. But it does seem your dad really wasn't always like this. I found this in the bookshelf, Cameron. Thought you might want to see it. He hands you an old hardcover copy of Alice in Wonderland. That was one of my mother's favorites. It might have been beautiful once, but age and time have worn it down to a dilapidated cover and shrunken, yellowing pages, but something sticks out from between them. I can already tell what character they're basing your mother off of. Just literally, let's see, God, how many things now? Immortal Desire's mother. That one. She's also the mother, as well as just random occurrence we keep seeing. Clearly a well-loved object and subject. You flip through the book to find a faded photograph of your mother. It's so faded that you can barely make it out, but it looks like a portrait, a headshot maybe. You feel your chest crumple with emotion. Her face. Your mother's features are smudged much more than the rest of the picture, worn away as though by a thumb grazing her face over and over for years. So all this time he's held on to her. Certainly seems so. Mom deserved better than him. Look at her. She was like sunlight. My dad is the furthest thing from sunlight I could possibly imagine.
Maybe he was different with her.
I don't care what pretenses he put on. He didn't deserve to breathe the same air as her.
Well, it's no use raging against it now. We can't change the past.
You shake your head, trying to return to the present. George, what about the closet? There's an important-looking safe in there the size of an oven, but I can't figure out the code. You stride over to the closet, peer inside. The safe takes up nearly half of it. You squat down beside it and scrutinize the keypad. I tried all the most common combinations. My dad would never stoop to commonalities. You type in his birthday, nothing. You start to cycle through all the family birthdays, Dante, Sabrina's, your mom's, even your own, before grunting in frustration.
Look at the numbers. Maybe we can figure out the code by telling which ones are more worn than others.
You're a woman! You have that little compact in your pocket, okay? You take it, you literally take a little bit of makeup, and you pat it against the numbers. That will tell you which ones are the most commonly used. Not just worn, but commonly used. And it'll also tell you if anyone's a repeat. You and George stare at him.
What? Teenage Trey was really into Sherlock.
Sounds handy. I didn't realize you were so skillful.
You don't even know half of it, baby.
I bet. Any other techniques you know that could help us crack something in this room?
Well, I did notice that most of the books on the shelf seem stacked by color and hide.
Which means
they're most likely just for show. He's not reading them.
Huh, not bad. I'll keep that in mind. You peer back at the keypad, trying to focus Trey's right, for the buttons are more worn than the rest. But those numbers are completely random. We'd have to try every combination unless... At once it dawns on you. You type in the code and the lock clicks open. Of course, Vitality's founding day, the baby birthday that means the most to him.
Yeah, we should have seen that one coming.
You swing open the door to the safe, and there, on top of a pile of papers, you find the smoking gun. It's hospital paperwork. I don't believe this. All night long, he's been touting his health, his triumphant return to work.
And what does the paperwork say?
He needs a heart transplant. It's the only way to cure him. He's on the list, but there are no guarantees. No, there's not. Not for transplants. For a moment, the silence is absolute. I knew he was hiding something. You take a breath, pulling your thoughts forcefully back together. Ever since I saw him leaving the hospital, I knew he couldn't be alright. He's been lying to all of us, his family, his company.
Well, that ends tonight.
Downstairs, you hear the faint clamor of applause.
And so we raise our glasses to our incredible resolute leader, Theodore Vital.
It's time. Let's go. You burst into the living room, marching straight to the center of the crowd, your sheafs of evidence clutched in your hand. Enough. In a single word, but so loud and fierce that the applause quiets. James stares down at you, mouth agape, champagne glass still half raised in the air.
What's the meaning of this?
It's time the lies stop. My father's not a good man, or a good one, kind one, or a calm one, or a safe one. He's a liar, a master manipulator, an enabler, a horrible husband, and above all else, a garbage father. The crowd draws in a collective gasp. Someone who sounds like a lot like Elizabeth lets out a small shriek. You only need to look as far as his supposed beloved wife. Not only did he cheat on my mother, on the mother of his child, but he treated her like dirt. He was willing to leave her the moment he found out he'd gotten his side chick pregnant. Does anyone here today consider themselves a friend of Theodore Vital? If so, I'd suggest you abandon that idea. He keeps dirt to blackmail everyone around him, from his vague associates all the way up to his co-founder and his best friend. You're all pawns in his game. Murmurs fill the room, and they only bolster you. Good. Take it all in, absorb his cruelty, his dishonesty. There's nothing to celebrate here. He's evil. We all know him as the iron-fisted titan of the industry, but there's nothing more admirable about the way he lives his life. He's malicious, cruel, loveless. Tales of his degeneracy could fill a book. I can't imagine a more foul human being, and I was raised by him. It's time to be honest with yourselves. None of you are here because you think he's a good person. The only companions he has are the ones who either want something from him or the one he's maintained by force. The crowd exchanges uncomfortable looks, some staring openly at your father as though seeing him for the first time. You wonder just how many of them feel your statements in their bones. But I guess what goes around comes around, because his most trusted friends, family in the room today, are actively plotting against him. His own son, Dante Vital, held a secret meeting at the governor's ball. The grand plan? To team up with a stranger and destabilize everything his father has built. In the crowd, Dante gives an angry sort of gasp, staring daggers at you. It's tempting to glance at your father to see his reaction to the bomb you've dropped, but you don't want to give him a chance to shut you down while you're on a roll. Dante didn't take the deal, not because of any sort of family loyalty, but because he didn't know or want to share the glory of taking his father's company with anyone else. The guests move away from Dante like he's carrying some kind of disease, whispering furiously. So I hope you're all abandon this notion of Theodore Vital, the family man. His children are more extensions of him, and if we don't fulfill his purpose, we're useless. He's completely uninterested in us. His daughter, Sabrina, is a brilliant young woman, smart, driven, and on the road to success. But does she see that? No, of course not. Sabrina looks up from the crowd and meets your eyes, giving you the smallest hint of a smile. So, all she is to him is a pretty pet bird, an attractive airhead. She deserves a better father. All of us do. Party guests begin to peel away from your father so that you can, at last, see him clearly through the crowd. Get mad. His face is twisted in a terrible fury, but you've only just begun. Look at his hospital paperwork. You raise the paperwork high above your head like a flag. It says here, clearly for anyone who wants to read, that the only thing that will cure Theodore Vital is a heart transplant, and there are no guarantees. So much for all this rubbish about how he's all recovered. Fit as a fiddle, aren't you, Dad? Your father says nothing, glances at the group of board members clustered near him. Immediately a rumble of whispers bursts through them, and one by one they level your father with grim stares. My mother didn't die in a car accident. She was murdered by my step-witch and darling brother. It was all a nasty plot to get her out of the way, and enough! I would have done the will next instead of that, but, the room falls deathly silent. Your father rises on shaky legs and fixes a furious glare on you, his face a shade of red you've never seen on him before. I've heard it with you. Whatever the hell this disgusting spectacle is. Security, get her out of here. Even as security grabs you by the arm and drags you away, you keep spitting out the words. Liars, manipulators, murderers. Last image you witnessed before you're yanked outside is a crowd full of horrified, scandalized faces surrounding your father. And then just before the wide double doors close behind you, you see him clutch at his chest. It'd be a real shame if he died. Karma is a bitch. You stride across the front lawn, trying to calm the thunderous pounding in your chest, but as you feel yourself begin to cool, Dante strides out of the house to meet you, swaggering with revolting smugness at the sight of you so undone. Get the hell out of here, Dante. Oh, still testy, are we? Huh, I just love it when a problem handles itself. There's no way Daddy's gonna give you the CEO position now, and you know the best part of it all? You were right. Mom and I did plan to kill your useless mother. And I'm not sorry. Oh, come on, Trey and George. I need you to get angry. Come on. She was gonna take everything from us, so I did what I had to do to make sure my life became all it was destined to be. For a moment, you stare at his face flushing with passion, and you're too sickened to speak. And now I'm gonna be the CEO of the largest company in the world, and you'll be where you belong, lucky to be invited to Christmas. How will you get away with this? I know you're dim, but you should try taking a look around you, because sometimes before running your mouth, I have gotten away with it. You think anyone cares what delusional crap you come around here spouting? Especially when the old man won't back you up. Yeah, I do. I think people care about the truth, and I'm not resting until the truth is shared. And how is that going for you so far? In a fury, you start towards him, but all at once you hear the thud of a cane hitting the packed dirt, and silence falls over you both. Slowly, Dante steps aside to reveal your father, standing behind him, stunned and shattered.
You really did it. You and Elizabeth. I never imagined. I never dared to think that was what Cameron said was true.
He looks genuine, stricken, devastated in a way that almost makes you want to reach out for him. Almost.
How could I have raised such a monster? Someone who'd hurt his own father like this.
Bro, are you fucking serious right now? Dad. Oh, please, both of you stop this charade. I've seen the papers from his prissy little school. How could you have raised anything less than when you enabled your son to be on his worst behavior, knowing that he'd never face a punishment? I'm just lucky I had the years that I did with my mother, growing up with someone loving, warm, and real. It saved me from being just like you. Abruptly, Elizabeth strides out of the house behind your father, having heard your last declaration. Why do you people all still have mouths or room to talk? Jesus Christ. You're no less a monster than any of us, Cameron. If anything, you're just more of a hypocrite. Your mother wasn't a bastion of morality. You keep conveniently ignoring the fact that there are two sides to every affair, and your mother slept with a married man. She gives a furious, snobbish little sniff. Not to mention the fact that you only live the life you do because we took you in. You killed my mother, you stupid... If it were up to me, Marion's bastard would have been seen past the condo's lobby. At the sound of her name, something in your father finally snapped. He turns on Elizabeth, spewing and slack-jawed with rage.
You shut your goddamn mouth. Marion's twice the woman you've ever been. Don't you dare speak her name about what you've done. Nothing pertaining my family is up to you anymore. You're lucky I don't call the cops and have you locked up.
But Theo, I just...
Shut it. I said I can't believe I defended you. From this day forward, I don't ever want to see your face again. Don't you dare touch my property, vehicles, or any of my bank accounts. I'm cutting you off. Completely.
Her jaw drops, and you can tell she's rallying herself to protest again, but the grim determination on his face is unmistakable. How's this man not had a heart attack yet? No one who's ever gone toe-to-toe with that expression of Theodore Vital's face has ever emerged victorious.
Now get the hell out of my sight.
Security guards come forward with a wave of his hand. The two of them grab Elizabeth by each arm and begin to escort her, sputtering and unintelligibly, off the property. At the sight of her being pulled out of your life, maybe for good, you know you have to get out one last statement. Oh, why does this feel like it's all being rushed? Don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying it. Kinda. Because they're pieces of shit. But this feels so incredibly rushed. Is this the last chapter? Why would I say, you still have time to change? Yeah, no, piss off. Have they chuck you in a hole where no one finds you? Oh, don't you worry about me, sweetie. Just because I got mine doesn't mean you won't get yours. Maybe, but I'm glad I got to watch yours first. You wave sarcastically. Flip the bird at Elizabeth as she's dragged away, hissing at you like a snake. Dante starts uncaringly after his mother, and this raises a fresh wave of ire in you. Just when you thought you were all spent out. What about Dante, Dad? Gonna let him just get off scot-free like always?
He's my son. Don't be ridiculous.
Is it so? I hope your reasoning works for the rest of the world, Dad, because if you don't do something, I will. And I doubt the public will be as indulgent with Daddy's boy. Your father stares from you to Dante, jaw trembling, sweat on his brow. You can see his mind working furiously. So can Dante. You can't. You won't. But then your father clenches his jaw, and you know this painful internal struggle is over.
Take him away.
Immediately, security guards grab Dante by the arms and start to drag him away. What the hell do you think you're doing? I'll have every one of you fired. Blacklisted. Let go of me. I say this suit is Versace. Dante kicks and screams to the very last. Finally, the sound of his shrieks grow distant, but as your father turns wearily to head back inside, one final idea pops in your head. Hey, Dad, there's one more thing. He stops halfway up the front steps. Don't you think you've said enough and done enough for one day? Oh, don't worry. We're almost done, but I assume you want to give me a good reason not to smear the Vitelli family name. Grunts gruffly in response. You take as an acquiescence. Give me the rights to use it publicly. What better way to ensure I keep it golden? Father turns to look at you. A moment of silence hangs in the air like smoke. You meet his gaze, cold, calm. Finally, you see his eyes widen ever so slightly. I see myself in you, Cameron. That's not a good thing. You don't remember him ever saying that to you, but you try not to show your shock under his gaze. I wonder if he means that as a compliment. Very well. If that's what you want, then you'll accept nothing else. You shake your head firmly. That's what I want, and I'm not leaving until I get it. He gives a reluctant sigh. Fine, agreed. The Vitelli family name is yours to use. And just like that, you've cleared one of the last hurdles for you to be named the new CEO. Game on. Well, this was all completely fucking pointless then, wasn't it? It was all... Tell me I'm wrong. Go on, no, go on, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong, it's all completely goddamn... Why do I feel like this was rushed? Sloppy? Like, what the actual... Alright, you know, I'm just gonna... Oh... Lord. Alright, let me know your thoughts down below. I'm just, like, what the hell? I'm really like, what the hell? Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't understand the purpose of the whole, like, getting information on certain people. Let me know what you guys think down below. Otherwise, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, especially if you enjoy the content that I do here. But otherwise, let me say the following. So, they got away with murdering your mother. We're not going to pursue that. I guess just because you want the Vitelli last name. And that's great. You know, your father will end up divorcing the chick. Then she'll owe him money. Who gives a shit? And long story short, Dante won't get the CEO position. He wasn't already in the will. Sabrina, however... interesting. So I guess now it's maybe us versus Sabrina, and, like, her gonna try and undermine me. Like, how's that gonna work out exactly? I don't honestly know. Like I said, it just feels rushed. It feels sloppy. It feels... like, you tuned in, right? Like, you know, you ever tune into, like, a soap opera? Just, you've never watched it ever. And there's like this really suspenseful part and everyone's yelling at one another and you're just like, I just can't change the channel, right? Until it's over. And then you're like, what the hell was that all about? But there's no way you can find out. So you're just like, LOL, oh well. And you just keep scrolling. That's what just happened. Serious. Oh my god. Like, okay, I'm just gonna give you guys, like I said, if you guys don't know my story, you really should look into it, to get to know me. And, it's up on that clock app. How about that? 8 minutes long. It's something that I put there because I thought it was going away, but now it's back, but it's still there. It's something that I was working personally on the channel. Again, if you've tuned into streams or you've watched my content long enough, you've actually listened to things I say at the end of the videos. Typically I give you guys breadcrumbs about who or what I am, everything that I've stood for, things that happen in this app. Typically I will sometimes be like, yeah, no, I definitely feel that, or I definitely know that. And this is one of those, you know, things where, yeah, no, I came from a really crappy family. And so I definitely feel it. I don't know if you guys could tell when I was reading it off, right? But it was just shotgunning right out of my mouth as I was reading it. Because, you know, those things have left my mouth before. Oh, trust me, far worse have left my mouth because of my family and just how horrible they are. And they are no, you know, CEO, top technology, whatever, blah 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 family. They're just garbage. And so, yeah, no, I've definitely been in our MC's shoes, telling my family off, and finally having enough. But all, like, there was no safe. I already knew all the dirt. And you just kind of save it and save it and save it for a rainy day. And you just shotgun it at them. That's about the best way to put it. So, yeah, no, this is definitely a piece of crap family. So, without further ado, thanks for watching. Catch you all later. Peace out.